Bosch is one company that we're going to be focusing on. It took a hit in its top line in the fourth quarter as the overall auto sales slowdown took a toll on the equipment manufacturer. The German giant claims it's ready with a new lineup of BS6 compliant auto parts. So will that be enough to help boost earnings in FY20? Let's ask Jan-Oliver Roehrl, the Chief Technology Officer and Director at the company. Jan, thanks very much for taking out the time. Let's start off with this quarter's performance and what were the tailwinds according to you? Sorry, the headwinds.
The headwinds, good afternoon. So let's say you're speaking about headwinds. I think let's say we are not acting independently of what is happening in the market. And if you look at the overall market development, you will easily recognize that April was a washout for the whole industry, and that coming from Diwali sales, which were quite muted, I would say, the industry was starting to piling up inventories, from which now the sales is happening. Our sales, in consequence, was not to, let's say, the expectation that we had put ourselves into, and to the expectation that the market might have to. But again, we are not acting independent of a market, but we are supplying to a market.
Just, while obviously currently the slowdown coming in from the auto segment does have an impact on you, the aftermarket segment and the aftermarket component supply, is that good enough to compensate?
Well, I will not speak about now individual elements of the market because, let's say, also here we cannot speak about complete independency, and we have to take this as a whole picture. And the market as a whole did not meet all, let's say, investors' expectation, at least, I would say. But at the end, if you look from where we are coming in year 2018, I take now the calendar year 2018, we are in all the segments on an all-time high. And what is going up so steeply compared to year 2017, where we had the introduction of BS4, there's, let's say, some natural thing happening in the market, which is a course correction of some overheatment.
Jan, just comment on how big the BS6 opportunity is going to be for you, because, I'm reading a report that suggests that there are vast opportunities for tailpipes, but not so much so in terms of engine upgrades. And for yourself, the opportunity is at best trading sales from BS6 upgrades with low margins. Do you agree with that?
Well, look, we are a system provider, and this is our strength. So we are not looking isolatedly what is happening in the engine, but we are looking on what is happening in the air part, that is including the after-treatment part, and going beyond, let's say, the air part. So all the after-treatment system solution with sensors, urea dosing, and so on and so on. So, and that is something that the market is knowing, recognizing, and acknowledging. So that was one of the reasons why, at least in the acquisition phase, which is not over, I would say, because the market is still on for BS6, also for acquiring new business, was quite successful. And we are now helping our customers to deliver on BS6, the technology, in the right point in time, which is very short from now. 1st of April 2020, there will be a cold cut from BS4 to BS6.
All right. Just one question on that then, since you mentioned technology. I just want to bring you in on how big an edge is the gasoline direct injection technology, that you guys have recently gained traction in, and how big an edge is it when you're talking about the BS6?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Now, let's say if you look on what is happening in the diesel worldwide, we see a decline in the market demand, specifically for passenger car segment, and the smaller the market segment, or the smaller the engine is in that market segment of passenger cars, the lower is the demand for diesel. And if you take an example like Germany, which has been maybe hit the hardest for the diesel side, that has now been touched ground at around 32% in the month of March, if I look on the last registration numbers, which was even a little plus over the last year. Yeah? Yeah, but having said that, these smaller engines, they will then be replaced by, of course, gasoline engines or by, for example, CNG engines, and we are well positioned in both of it.
Jan, just two questions from my side. Your margins have been under pressure in the last few quarters, and that can be attributed, you've said there is slowdown in the sector. Tell us, since the industry moved to implementation of BS4, I believe you were importing some of the raw materials because of which that was increasing your cost as well. Will this phenomena continue when you move forward to BS6 as well? Will you be importing some of the raw materials which will put pressure on your margins again?
So first, let's say, of course, we are in a pre-investment for BS6 with all the customer projects, which is putting, as you are calling it, pressure on the market or on our results. I call that as we are investing in the future. That is the first point. The second point is you were mentioning on raw materials. It's not really raw materials, but it's components that we import. And here we are following a very, let's say, rational approach of that volumes and scales, they have to justify localization. And a localization is not only ending for us at an assembly and testing, but we want to localize the value chain as we are doing this for conventional products or also for manufactured common rail components as an example. And here we, let's say, have to look for partners, of course, as well.
Just a last question. I'm sure your investors would be interested in this. Because of BS6 implementation, do you see losing any high margin revenues that you currently get? And if yes, how do you plan to compensate for it?
Sorry, I did not get this. You have to repeat this, please.
The industry moves to implementation of BS6 by April 2020. Will you be losing out on any high margin business because of it? And if yes, how do you plan to compensate that?
No, now look first, let's say BS6, there's value add for us, so it's an opportunity as a system supplier because, let's say, while BS4 was ending on a system on the engine, now we have the air pass inside and we have the after treatment system inside, so it's an opportunity for us.